I kick it over to your questions in that Q&A box there, and we will get to them all at the end of the session. And Matt, I will pass it on to you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to toggle my screen so I get to where I need to be. Thank you, everyone, for joining us so I can introduce you to Research Defender. Little background on our company is we're a platform that helps both buyers and sellers of sample provide a more secure product to derive insights. We look at the entire ecosystem, and our mission is to create a much stronger data quality and increase efficiency for all parts of the industry. Before I start, I always like to point out that we are Switzerland. We are independent. And by that, I mean we do not buy sample. We do not sell sample. We do not provide data collection services. We have a handful of competitors. None of them can say that. So we take great pride in the fact that we are truly independent. So this is actually our place in the industry. Okay, we work on behalf of the panel owners and sellers, the exchanges, and the platforms, and the research agencies that buy sample through any of those sources. Now, with one exception, we don't tend to work for end clients. We could. We are a small company. We'd love to work with everybody. But unless someone's doing their own research and doing their own data collection, the advantage is to work through those partners instead. So, we're happy to speak to all aspects of the industry. So to frame our conversation today, I always like to ask a 4-part rhetorical question. Yes, and 4 parts of rhetorical question. Sounds exciting. The first is, what does fraud and duplication cost you in terms of, obviously, data quality? We talk about the costs that it takes in manual labor to scrub data, to go through respondents, and then other efficiencies, refield. How many times have you had to clean out data, clean out quota groups, and then have to go back into field? Very inefficient. And of course, how much does fraud and duplication cost you in wasteful spending? Whether you're building a panel or buying sample, how much money is wasted on buying less than reliable respondents? So this is where we come in. So to that end, we have built 5 distinct products. You'll forgive us, some of the names are incredibly catchy: search, activity, review, verify, and pre-dupe. And I'll go into each of them in a little bit of detail right here. Our core product is called Search. Now, Search uses a digital fingerprint, detects bots, prevents duplications. We see that a tremendous amount of fraud that comes into marketing research comes from outside marketing research. The same problems that are seen by ad tech, e-commerce, financial services. When asked why he robbed banks, Willie Sutton said, because that's where the money is. And we should all know that our industry spends billions of dollars a year globally on paying out incentives. Between qualitative and quantitative, there is no shortage of money that has changed hands to get respondents to pay. And you also have to remember that there are a lot of places in this world where $5 a day American, £5 a day UK, €5 a day goes a very long way. So there is incentive for people to defraud our industry for those incentives. Now, for those that don't know what a digital fingerprint is, this is the backbone of how our products work. Okay. So just like a human fingerprint, no 2 machines are identical. Whether it's the manufacturer, the operating system, the version of the operating system, the amount of memory, the other programs, the versions of programs, and everything else, not to mention IP addresses and cookies, we can determine what one machine is versus another. Heck, we were ready for no more cookies before Google was, apparently, as they put that on back burner for a while. Our whole concept here is to make sure that survey respondents are unique, because we don't want duplications. Now, duplications can happen with multi-sourcing of panels, but we don't want it to be done on purpose either. So our tool prevents that. This slide is quite important to the whole process. We hear a lot of, we do that ourselves. And whether it's from a platform or from a panel or from a buyer, a lot of that falls into stage one. You'll see a cookie check or an IP address check. You'll see a panelist ID check or a hashed email check. The panels will be double opt-in, of course. And I'm sure the full service researchers on this presentation would like to remind us that they are going to include some trap questions in the survey. Because surveys aren't quite long enough, we really need to add more questions to them. Now, those that are experienced at fraud know exactly what we're doing there. So then, uniquely, Research Defender layers in what we call stage two. Now, stage two is where we subscribe to third-party platforms, data sources, that identify fraud without an industry specificity. So companies like MaxMind, Fraud Labs, DBIP, IPQS are industry agnostic. Now, MaxMind and Fraud Labs are quite similar, and they go into our formula, where they assign a score based on that digital fingerprint that gives us an idea or an estimate on the likelihood of fraud between the different respondents that are trying to come in. DBIP, IPQS, companies like that are all about geolocation. Are these people where they say they are? Are they using a VPN, a proxy, a Tor network? Are they changing their IP address on their way into a survey because they want to get around those tools? These tools help us out. And one of the smartest parts about our system is that we didn't go ahead and try and build everything ourselves. We saw that there were tools that were available, and instead of building them ourselves, we subscribe to them. We curate them. There's best in breed, and there's no need to remake those. And so we're using the wisdom of the crowd that cuts across industry. And then, of course, stage three is where we built our technology that addresses market research fraud. We can detect things like chain logic or simultaneous survey attempts by a single machine or browser. We can see whether there's click farms attacking your survey, whether there are algorithms trying to take surveys, the presence of a subnet within the response pool. Again, these are all forms of fraud that we see in research, and our tools are tuned just for that. So our tools are API-based, all of them. Search is a single line of API code that sits at the front end of a survey. Now, our job is to inform. So what happens is when someone tries to enter one of your surveys, they'll hit our API, we'll take a digital fingerprint, and return back data like you see in front of you. We're going to tell you what country they're in. We're going to score that respondent. And then we're also going to then let you know whether or not through a binary indication, are they a duplicate? Did they mismatch the country? And for any other failure reason, we're going to give you the reason behind it. And in doing so, you get to make your own decisions. We are never in control of the process. Our clients always make the decision as to who enters the survey and who does not, programmatically, of course. Now, we give our clients all the guidance and best practices that you could ever want. But at the end of the day, our job is to inform. That is search. Product number 2 is what we call activity. Now, this is a unique product in the industry that no one else offers. This is tracking at the respondent level. On any given day, we see millions and millions of data calls across our products. We see the same people over and over again. So what this tool does is it helps prevent professional respondents from corrupting your data. Now, we say corrupting your data because professional respondents don't act like someone who's there to tell you the truth, because they're going to own more things, they're going to like more things, because they want to guess the right answer to qualify for the incentive, not because they've got good feedback to share. We help keep them out of your surveys. Now, no one else offers this. Excuse me. Because your clients and you want those on the left-hand side of this chart for their surveys, not the ones on the right. Speaking of charts, this is an actual chart from an actual study. Now, we have one of these on each study that we assist on. Now, I did 2 things here. One, I changed the colors to match my presentation. Came out pretty good, I think. But 2, I also lopped off the right side of this. This actually went up to about 120. Now, can you imagine the data quality of someone who's attempted 70, 80, 90, 100 surveys in the last 24 hours? You should be able to imagine it because they're in your data right now. There is no other way that exists that we know of that you can look across the industry, across all of our clients, to tell you how active someone has been. Again, activity is API-based, and it sits at the front end of the survey. So we're catching these people before they ever come in and clog up one of your quota groups. Our third product is called Review. Review is a text analytics tool that we've developed, but it's not text analytics to help you write a report. Review is a real-time scoring on the veracity of each open-ended response. As you see on the screen, things that we're looking for include proper grammar, responses that could be too short. Did they drop an F-bomb? Did they bang on the keyboard and give you gibberish? Did they copy and paste from the clipboard? Now, using a server-side call, we can see whether someone has copied a response. How many times have you seen someone take the survey question, drop it into the response box because that respondent is savvy enough to know that there's a character minimum, or they have no idea what the heck they're talking about and they're using Wikipedia to give you a definition. Or even worse, they don't even speak the language in the survey you're asking, and they're using Google Translate to get through it. We will catch that in real time every time. So this is used in 2 places. First, how about adding this as a screener question? You can have an open-ended screener question because you know that if someone gives you a poor response at question number 3, then their response to question number 33, it's really not likely to get any better. Terminate them right there for quality. But also at the end of the study, you can download all the open-ended responses with our scores and flags. And instead of spending hours upon hours cleaning out the data manually, you can sort with our scores and flags and go through in minutes. Now think about it. For the first 3 products that you just saw as a funnel, between search, the fraud, the bots, the duplication, the click farms, followed by those that give poor open-ended responses, as well as those that are overactive on the panel. Between those 3, as you're getting through, there's going to be very few that you'll have to manually clean out at the end. Now, review is one line of API code, but instead of sitting at the front end of the survey, it's at each individual question. So yes, you can choose to use it on certain questions and not. But at the end of the day, you're still always in control. We never say take the human out of the equation. And this is a little bit of a logic flow, as you can see, going through the presentation of review. Our fourth product is for those that build panels, whether it's a private panel for a client or an access panel for the industry. Verify is our email address validation tool. It's a very simple tool. Now, what are you doing now if you're collecting email addresses to prevent fraud up front? This one line of API code is at the point of entry of that email address. All we're doing is making sure that email address is active and valid, and is that domain actively accepting emails. Now, we also, still like the other products, use third-party tools. And so in this case, we'll use tools like Experian to see if anybody else on the internet has flagged that email address for fraud. Wouldn't you like to know whether a retailer has found a problem with that email address as they're trying to sign up for your panel? This tool is very effective in preventing fraud from ever signing up for your list. It's a little bit of a logic flow. Our last product is something for sample sellers only. Now, while our search tool will prevent duplications, it's typically done on the buy side. Our pre-dupe product makes sample sellers more efficient. We can prevent a duplication on the sales side. Now, in doing this, our APIs will alert you that a potential respondent has already been exposed to a particular survey through another provider. Now, we all know in this industry that there are various ways that multiple panels can be used on an individual project, whether it's through multiple APIs, manually, or through a marketplace. That creates a lot of inefficiencies. So in using our pre-dupe product, which actually piggybacks the search product you saw previously, you can prevent a duplication on the sales side, which raises the efficiency or the return on investment for the panel providers or the sellers by preventing someone from not qualifying again, if that's the case. So we hear that the number one reason why people leave panels is, I never qualify. Well, this tool helps prevent that churn by routing someone away from something they've already seen. Additionally, if you're a panel that provides a consolation incentive, this will save the consolation incentive every time, because we will be able to inform you that this person has already seen the survey, assuming we can identify that through one of our other clients. It usually has a pretty good chance of that. So here's a little bit of a logic flow how that works. Again, this is for sample sellers only. Very effective tool for efficiency. And then lastly, we'd like to offer for any new client or potential client a 30-day trial on any product or all of the products. The only way to know if our products work for you is whether you can take the car out for a test drive and just ride it hard. We don't put a limitation on the amount of traffic that we allow through during the trial period. And there's no cost for setup and there's no cost for support. So there is no risk attached to our trials. And with that, I will figure out how to stop sharing. I think I already did stop sharing.
Perfect. Yeah, you are all set. Thanks so much, Matt. We have a few minutes for Q&A here, so feel free to pop any questions in that Q&A box and we can get to them. I think, for people who maybe joined a little late or missed it, can you just talk about what's the main differentiator between Research Defender and, some of your competitors?
As I said earlier in the presentation, we are not owned by a company that sells sample. So we are truly independent. We don't, have any skin in the game to to allow us to wake up in the morning with any sort of conflict of interest. We are truly a independent arbiter of quality. And again, we make no decisions for our clients. Our job is to inform, is to score the responses as they come in real time. Clients will make their own decisions as to what thresholds they'd like to use, that what works best, and that's where our trials tend to come in.
That's great. Yeah, glad to hear that. I'm glad to see that you had a 30-day free trial as well. That was going to be one of my questions, but you covered it. I guess a more simple question is, since you mentioned using Google Translate, is Research Vendor available in other countries? Is there a long list somewhere?
Yes. So on the review product, which is the text analytics tool, it's currently available in roughly 100 languages. And again, instead of building all those individual language modules ourselves, we were able to we were better able to just quickly bring our tools to the industry in multiple languages. So as far as text analytics goes, about 100 languages, and we've yet to be stumped on one. As far as the other tools go, since they're all digital fingerprint based, language is a non-issue, because we're looking at a digital fingerprint and not actually responses there.
Yeah, that's great. It's nice, makes it easier. I have a question from Leah that we're seeing a lot lately. She said, are you using / planning to integrate ChatGPT tech into your review product to better review open-ended questions?
Yeah, so that's actually, you'd imagine that we get that question quite a bit these days. And we are currently working on this, as one would expect. We see trends like the length of the answer, or copy paste, or then similarities within ChatGPT answers. And we will continue to build on these over time to further find the trends that come through, for those people that are trying to integrate ChatGPT in defrauding our industry. Basically, we're talking about pattern recognition, and while it's AI and it's pretty darn impressive, there are enough patterns to go by for us to pick up on that, especially when we start to see the duplicative nature of someone who's going to use it more than once. Again, we pick up on duplication better than almost anything else.
No, good to know. Very cool. Hopefully that answers your question, Leah. I think you mentioned this earlier in your presentation, but how long is that integration process?
So it really depends on the client and the platform they're using, and quite honestly, what their developers are doing this week. It's our part of the process is quite simple, since every client works through our APIs, and we provide each client with their own API keys. However, it does take a little bit of programming prowess to integrate it into their current workflow. Typically, most programmers can do it themselves. And we've seen it done in as quick as a day and a half. Honestly, there are some clients that it takes them a few months to get us into the queue within their own their tech department. So it's it really does vary. Our tools, some of our tools are native in some of the existing platforms, and we work all the time to bring us even more to the front of mind. But we do have some pre-built code libraries that we can provide, as well as developers on staff that help our clients with pretty much anything that's ever been thrown our way. So have yet to find something that stumped us.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Well, I think that's all the questions at the time being. Thanks so much, Matt. That was really great. I appreciate the length of time you put into the session, because there's a lot of information, but you covered it all, I think, very well. And there's a big book time with me button at the top of the session page. So if everyone clicks that, they can, mail Matt directly and get a 30-day free trial set up. So Thank you for being here. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Karen.
Thanks. Bye.